I want people to be afraid of how much they love me.
Matt Skraby wraps up a full day of live and local sports talk.
That is the whole problem with aliens. You just can't trust them. Occasionally you meet a nice one, but usually they turn out to be some kind of big lizard.
The Skraby Show starts now on 97.3 The Fan.
Hello and welcome to the Skraby Show for February 18th, 2026. Thank you so much for joining me after quite the spirited Gwen and Chris show. I was just sitting back with my popcorn, watching Tony, mainly go back at Tony, and this whole Mick Cronin thing. If you didn't see it, Mick Cronin grabbed one of his players and he threw him out of the game. And then after the game, he berated a reporter who asked him about something that happened inside the stadium, the student section. And sometimes Chris really surprises me. And today was one of those days. So go back to that conversation. It was actually at 3:40, and it extended for like the next 45 minutes. It was that serious of a conversation. But Mick Cronin, in the end, if UCLA fires him, yeah, it's probably his time coming, because he has not been happy as the UCLA head coach all season long. Tonight, I want to talk a little bit about the 5 or 6 man rotation. I also want to talk about what's happening with the Giants manager up in San Francisco, or actually over in Arizona, because I don't know exactly what city they are in. But Tony Vitello has made some comments that have really rankled the Giants fans and rankled not rankled the media, but it was a surprising comment that he made. And I'm not sure if he's gonna, and this is kind of dramatic, but I'm not sure if he's gonna make it through a season. He is very upset about something, and Giants fans are thinking that this is a really big warning sign for them. So we'll get into that. I mean, it's his first day on the job. And I know I'm trying not to give away his story, but it's his first day on the job. He sits down and he brings up something with the media that they didn't even ask him about. And it was like the whole thing, leaving Tennessee. I don't know. We'll play the audio, but it is kind of crazy. And my friends in San Francisco are not happy with the manager being, not sure that he took the right job. I'm putting those words in his mouth. So we'll get into that as well. But during that last segment, I was getting ready for the Skraby Show. Kind of turned around a little bit just to see what was happening outside for a second. And if you don't know, our studios are on a 6th floor. And so we get to see the 15 north and south. We also get to see down through Mission Valley. Turned around and realized it was dark. Why is that a problem? Because I forgot to leave a light on for my guy Lucky. And he's my dog. And I'm sure he's scared right now. I have a few hallway lights, so it's not like he's completely in the dark. But there's something inside of me that makes me want to get up out of my chair right now and drive home and get him. I am not happy about this. I got to remember to leave a light on for him, just like Motel 6. I don't know if people feel this way. I know that my dog is not a real human. I know that children are much more difficult to take care of, but a dog is man's best friend, and you can't turn your back on man's best friend. I am just I just feel bad for him. So as soon as we get out of here, I am driving home, and he's going to be like, "What the heck did you do to me? What the heck you do to me?" I got a comment here before we get into everything. So the strike zone box on TV telecast will still show balls and strikes. First they say no, then yes. The last thing I knew about that was that they weren't going to put it on TV because of the automated balls and strike system. And so they didn't want it to be on the screen so that people could see, or guys could see it in the dugout and all this other stuff. not sure. I'm not sure if they're going to allow that, but I personally, I do like the ball strike box. It does cause problems though, because those boxes are not calibrated per player, blah 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 blah. There's a lot more that goes into it, and instead of just putting the box on the screen, because sometimes it will show us all a strike that's not a strike or a ball that's not a ball, and we just don't get to see the actual call because of the box on the TV. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into that one. That's a good question. I like the box, but I think I would probably be okay if it went away. I don't think it would be that big of a deal once I got used to it. KG's is breaking my heart over here. This one hurts, Skraby. I just had to put down my 13-year-old pup I raised since she was a week old. I'm sorry, KG. Really sorry to hear that. That is very sad, but you provided a great life for your puppy. What's your puppy's name? I'll shout your puppy out. I don't even want to think about those days that are ahead. It's just like the old, what is it? The old, it's not an adage or anything like that, but I'm just setting myself up for emotional failure later on in life. So now that I've heard that KG's dog unfortunately passed away, I feel a little bit better that Lucky is just maybe in the dark a little bit. Anyway, that really is sad though. But we'll move on for now. For now, if you didn't hear Craig Stammen announce that Logan Gillespie will start Friday's first spring training game, well, that's not that big of a deal. We'll see how things go throughout spring training, but I don't believe Randy Vasquez is going to throw till the weekend. So, yeah. Here's Craig Stammen, though, talking about the pros and cons of a 5-man versus a 6-man rotation. Now, we have this conversation every single year, but I don't know that we ever have had it this early on. Whoops, I clicked the wrong button. This early on in the season, but here's Craig Stammen talking about it.
Have you thought at all, like you've Joe and Michael coming off injuries last season, different degrees, have you thought at all about pros and cons of 5-man rotation versus 6-man rotation, or is that to be determined down the line?
Yeah, I think a lot of things that we talk about internally are like that. Even when we go back to the offseason, we're talking about some of the relievers being starters. Just things that we talk about and evaluate, see if the pros and cons of it, and then make a decision. So we haven't made that decision yet. We'll see how spring training goes. We'll see how they, handle all the live BPs and the simulated games and the backfield games and the actual games in the stadium, and then, see how they're recovering. If they can do it every 5 days or if they need that extra day, we'll kind of map it out with off days and all that as best we can.
Both are possible.
Yeah, everything's on the table. We want to do what's best for them and what's best for the team, and how we marry those two things is yet to be determined.
Even with you guys have adequate off days in the early, like at least a day off every week. You still might consider the 6-man?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we'll see how these guys bounce back. That's the number one thing is, are they capable of being their best when we put them on the mound? Whatever that scenario looks like, that's what we're going to do.
I can already see that Craig Stammen is getting annoyed by the questions that he clearly cannot answer 3 days into spring training, but that is why the media is there, because they have to ask those questions. Now, the 5-man versus a 6-man rotation. Here is my thought over that, because every single year, as I said, we talk about this, and every single year we hear a multitude of different opinions. Now, when it's later in a year, I can understand a 6-man rotation because you might need it for a few weeks if a pitcher goes IL, or if they're going to miss a couple starts, or multiple pitchers go on the IL and they're going to miss a couple starts. Maybe one of your starters has logged a bunch of innings by 3/4 of the way through the year, so you might want to skip a start or two because you want to help them keep their arm fresh. So there's many different factors as to why a 6-man rotation could help during the latter parts of a season, but I don't know that a 6-man rotation would work right out the gate. And the reason I say that is because we have talked to pitchers before. We have asked pitchers on Friday, and they've said that starting pitchers say that they like their 5-day routine, and sometimes they feel like it's a little bit weird to pitch every 6th day. So everybody has their routine set up for 5 days. And I know that it sounds like it's not that big of a deal to go from a 5-man to 6-man rotation, but I think it's a bigger deal than we think. And the only way I can see a 6-man rotation happening to start the year is if they just have too many options and they don't want to have to force a decision on 5 pitchers. Maybe they do have 6 pitchers for 5 spots. And so they go into a 6-man rotation. I guess I could use Walker Buehler as an example because I asked earlier, I don't see Walker Buehler being a guy who is going to go down in the minor leagues and figure things out. I see him as a guy who wants to be on a major league roster. I mean, the guy has played in some pretty big moments. He's had a good career. So I can't see him wanting to go back down to AAA at this point in his career or AA or whatever it is. So I would think, do the Padres want to at least give him an opportunity to see what he's got in game action and go a 6-man rotation? Or do you just leave him off the roster and you go in a different direction? Now, who's to say he doesn't get the 5th spot? But I'm just using this as an example. Like it seems to me the Padres would have a longer leash with Walker Buehler in a 6-man rotation than if it was, Griffin Canning or something like that. And we know that Walker Buehler has not had the greatest years in the last couple, but there's that talent in there somewhere. So if he can work with Ruben Niebla and he can find it somehow, I wouldn't be mad seeing Walker Buehler start some games, but I'm just not sure about this 5 or 6-man rotation. I mean, we talk about it all the time, and we talked about it last year. And I don't believe we had any situations with the 6-man rotation last year, but every time the manager is asked about it, I think the manager says that they think about it, but they are not going to go with it because I think that they know that pitchers don't like that. The other starting pitchers don't like that. So we'll have to see where they're at by the end of spring training just to see if all of the pitchers that they signed are throwing the ball well and see who's going to fight to make the 4th and the 5th spot. Like I said yesterday, I think Randy Vasquez in the 4 spot he's got the inside track on that because of what he did for the team the last couple of years and mainly what he did for the team down the stretch last year. He was very good in the month of September. So I think just by what he did last year, he's going to be the 4th guy to start the season. But if I'm Randy Vasquez, the first 3 guys, Musgrove, Pivetta, and King, they don't have to worry. But if I'm a 4 or 5 starter, I feel like this is creating good competition because if you have a couple bad outings, you might get replaced. And so it's going to make someone look over their shoulder a little bit to make sure that they're staying on the team. And competition is a good thing. It's not something that is going to wreck a clubhouse. It's not something that's going to, make everyone uneasy. I just think the Padres we have to trust the Padres. We have to trust the Padres to figure it out. All right. That's it for that. When we get back, some more on the Padres. Craig Stammen was asked about Sun Mung Song and when he's going to make his debut. Also, there was a question, a very not strange question, but there was a question that I haven't listened to yet, and I have to hear the answer because I don't think I've ever heard it asked before. So we'll do that when we get back here on the Skraby Show, 97.3 The Fan.
Hot tub, hot tub.
Matt Skraby. Back here in Bill Howe Studios, we know how. And sometimes during a show, I have a bunch of push notifications that pop up on my phone, so I try not to miss any news, but I did miss a bunch of stuff that happened today with the MLBPA. But Chris Bassett, actually, who is a executive subcommittee member, has a comment about the salary cap, and I think it is a little bit misleading, tone deaf. I don't know. We'll go over that in just a second, because I mean, there are problems with parity in baseball. There's no question in my mind. No matter how much baseball people will scream in my face that I'm wrong, there is a problem with parity in baseball. And Chris Bassett had some comments, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. If you're keeping with the theme, or not the theme, but I told you in the last segment, I forgot to put on some lights for my dog Lucky. So my throat all of a sudden is like having trouble. Give me 1 second, please. Anyway, so I thought if I went on a camera and talked to him, that would be even more weird. So I'm not going to do that. But that was a suggestion that I got from someone. Go on your camera and say, "Hey, Lucky, I'll be home soon." I think that would confuse him a little bit more. All right. Craig Stammen, the manager of the Padres. You know what we're not talking about with Craig Stammen? His commitment to the Padres. We'll get to Tony Vitello next segment. But Craig Stammen, here, he was asked about Sung Mung Song and when he could be ready. Now, he's dealing with an oblique injury. The last time we heard about him, Craig Stammen said that he is doing much better than people thought he was going to be at this point, and it didn't seem like it was too serious. So here is Craig Stammen talking about his return.
Sung Mun's been progressing really well. He's been doing a lot of stuff on the field, as you guys can probably see. He's going to take a day off hitting today in his normal progression of getting him ready. And then he'll get a couple of full day practices where he's, full go. We're not watching him. And then once we check those boxes, he'll be getting in a spring training game and we'll get a good look at him.
Any defensive positions you're thinking of for him?
Yeah, I think right now we've been working him out at second base and third base. I know he feels really comfortable in those two spots. We get him really comfortable, feeling good about where he's at right now, and then maybe we'll move him around after that. But for right now, second base, third base feels really good for him.
Interesting. Second base and third base. So there you go. You got a Manny backup and you got a second base backup or starter. Do we see him starting at second base? I know Jake Cronenworth is at second base. They have Gavin Sheets at first base. I don't see him starting to begin the year, but I everything that I've read about him and a lot of the experts, quote unquote, have said that the Padres season doesn't hinge on Sung Mung Song, but if he could play well, it would just be something that the Padres couldn't build into their calculations before the year. Because if he comes out and does what they think he's going to do at, as years go along, now I don't think he's going to be hitting 30 home runs or anything like that, but all he needs to do is contribute and have good at bats and just get used to the major league game. I don't see him being an everyday player unless forced into it by injury or something like that. But it's nice to hear that he's getting a little bit better. Joseph said oblique injuries can suck and linger, so hopefully he fully recovers. I think that's what it sounds like. Going forward, we'll see what he has to do. I'm really curious to see what he can do. So AJ, has done his scouting of the KBO and NPB, and he's done a pretty good job at it. So I'm going to, err with the side of AJ. Now, Craig Stammen was also asked who the Padres' backup shortstop options are, and here's what he said.
Jake is definitely one of them. We kind of put him over there last season. I don't know what decision making was. I wasn't part of that, but he came over and then he made some great plays in Colorado, if I remember right. And we're kind of like, all right, Jake can play shortstop. And he knew it all along. It's just, maybe us being stubborn and not putting him over there. But Jake will definitely be one of those guys. Song will be another guy that we maybe try at shortstop. We've got Mason McCoy. We got a few guys that can sneak over there and play shortstop, but as far as backup shortstop goes, I don't, we'll see how the roster shakes out and, who we put on the bench and what they can possibly do.
I don't know who asked the question, but and it's a question that's interesting to us, but I could tell you, I don't think the Padres know who's going to be the backup shortstop 3 days into spring training. That is a total spring training question. And I'm not making fun of the question because these are things that we like to know. And what we learned from that is Sungmung Song, not only we heard second and third base, but shortstop is an option as well. So this guy could play everywhere in the infield. And I am ready for it. Jake Cronenworth can also play anywhere in the infield. And when Tony and I were talking to Jake Cronenworth at the, FanFest, when he sat down with us, I asked him, have you had a conversation about what your role is going to be, where you're going to be playing? And he said that their conversations were going to be had at spring training, but mostly I think he's planning for second base. And I think he should stay there. I'm not even like, I don't sometimes understand why someone excels at one spot and then they ask him to move somewhere else. So Jake Cronenworth is a really good second baseman. And I don't even know that he is, he likes playing first. He will play first. I don't think that's his best position. I think he's got range. He's got range. And the jokes on the chat are right there. Joseph and Eric are right on it. The right fielder could play shortstop, Fernando Tatis Jr. The center fielder could play shortstop, Jackson Merrill. There are plenty of players that could play shortstop on this team. Plenty of players. If you go to 97.3 The Fan SD on Twitter or X, you could see some of the videos of Walker Buehler throwing his bullpen. Lots of guys sitting around watching that, seeing what he could do. Also, Jackson Merrill, there's a video of him hitting a home run to right field against Ron Marinaccio. So that's good to see Jackson hitting a home run. I know it doesn't mean anything. Nick Castellanos challenges a called strike. Ends up being a ball. I don't know if they're just testing the system, but it was a ball all the way. So I'm not sure what the umpire was looking at. But if you go to 97.3 The Fan SD, you'll see all that. Also, there is some news, and I should say this before I move on. Nick Castellanos also hit a booming double, according to our Twitter. And I'm watching the video, and it indeed is a booming double off the center field fence. So Ron Marinaccio getting rocked today. Sorry, buddy. All right, moving on real quick. Story in San Diego. The USD Toreros have parted ways with head coach Steve Lavin. So they are going to be looking for a new head coach. The thing with USD is they're in the West Coast Conference. And coming from a guy who went to a school in the West Coast Conference, because people ask me, why is the USD as popular as SDSU? And I'm thinking, well, SDSU is better, number one, consistently better. And number two, USD is in a West Coast Conference situation, which is not a great situation. Gonzaga is leaving that conference. So it's going to be even worse here in the next year. So it's hard for me to think that the Toreros are ever going to get to the point of the Aztecs unless they somehow find a better conference. But I don't see that happening. West Coast Conference is a lot of the private schools along the West Coast, like USF, Loyola Marymount, Pepperdine, Portland, Gonzaga, Santa Clara, St. Mary's, those types of schools. And so when Gonzaga leaves, that's the moneymaker for the conference. That is the moneymaker for them. So I can't see I can't see the Toreros getting on a national page with the Aztecs unless they figured out how to get, better competition, more NIL money, things of that nature. But seems like that USD coaching position has been up in flux for a little bit now. So Steve Lavin has been removed from his position. Just saw that Welsh Fryer came into the chat. Hello, Welsh Fryer. Yes, he's coming all the way from Wales. So he is one of our great supporters internationally. All right, when we get back, let's talk about this Tony Vitello thing. because I think the Giants overthought this. I think they're trying to reinvent the wheel when they shouldn't have. So I'll play you that audio when we get back on 97.3 The Fan.
The biggest guests in
We are less than 48 hours until Padres baseball is back. And we're going to have it on the station. You will be hearing the first spring training game of the season here, 97.3 at 12:10 p.m. And then Chris and I are going to take over after. Tony's going to head home. And we're also going to talk, and he'll join us after he heads home. And then Sam Levitt is going to join us after the game to give us some of his thoughts as well. So this whole thing in San Francisco is very strange to me. This whole thing from the beginning was very strange to me. And the reason I'm talking about it is because this team is in the Padres division, and this team is one that is supposed to compete on a yearly basis. I'm not sure if the Giants are going to compete this year, but we've already entered the part of the season where one of my favorite writers in San Francisco, the Mercury News, Dieter Kurtenbach, after the Monday press conference, he wrote an article that says, does Giants manager Tony Vitello actually want to be here? And that's not overstating it at all. That's not overstating it at all. I think that once I play this video for you, you're going to kind of see what we're talking about here. But it's very strange. I'm going to have to put it up here on the screen so everybody on the YouTube can see it. But I will comment throughout on this. But here is the press conference. Tony Vitello, manager of the Giants, sits down with the media, first time all season long, and this is how it goes.
When did you first think I was taking this job? Or do you remember that far back?
Yeah, it was about 4 days before it actually happened, 5 days before.
Yeah, that's funny you say that, because that was not reality, at all. I don't know if Buster would feel the same way, but that wasn't the case. Somebody decides they think they got the information. The final blow was about 4 days later. And the thing I'm just kind of having a conversation, therapy, if you will, from walking out of there. But I needed confirmation from the coaches that I worked with that helped boost my status, that they were okay with what was going to go on, and they were going to be okay with their jobs. That staff had always been built as like next man up, and all of a sudden that was being threatened. So it was kind of hard to do something for yourself and your teammates get left behind.
All right, I'm going to stop it right there, and then we're going to continue with this. But this is all on him. He just sat down and he started talking about this. And this is what Giants fans are worried about. Why is he sitting down for his first media scrum of the year, and he's talking about how someone reported that he left? Here, we'll keep going.
But yeah, it was not 4 days for what it's worth. That was not the case at all. If you would have seen me in my condo, you would have agreed. So, but anyway,
Why do you ask?
because somebody tweeted it out. I don't know who told them. I wish I did. And it might have changed the course of history if I would have known who did, to be honest with you. But it just bothers me because I don't know. You see people angry on this. I hate to get philosophical, but you see people angry on the streets for a lot of times stuff that's not even true. People arguing and you don't know what reality is. So, but I did, shrink-wise, I did a really damn good job at keeping that away from our team, our recruiting, and it was not
Anybody notice that he still has not talked about the Giants at all yet? Okay, keep going.
a distraction. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of practice, I see our first and third base coach freaking out. And they freaked out on me too. And if for no reason, because at that point, nothing was going to happen. But somebody decided that it was going to happen, and then the whole world started spinning real quick, and I had to address the team, and people said either that or me leaving was a distraction. Those guys are SEC athletes. They ain't distracted by me. We dealt with years where they thought we might take a job, or we were offered a job, or there was jobs open. I'd meet with guys in the office. They're like, Coach, we don't care. The guys care about the guys when the season's going on, and hopefully they love their coaches. But that thing was never a distraction. They got talent, and they got good kids. So,
all right, honestly, I don't even know what he's talking about anymore. He did not mention the Giants once in that 3 month seemed like 3 months, 3 minute clip. He did not mention the Giants once. And so I immediately got a text from my friend up north, and they said, bro, what is our manager doing? And I watched it, and I was like, I have no idea what he's doing. But this is the mindset of him. He's sitting down for his first media scrum of the year, and he's mad at how it was reported that he was going to be the Giants manager before he was ready for it to be reported. I'm sorry, Mr. Vitello, but you are a manager of a Major League Baseball team. There is going to be a lot said about you on social media that is not true or that you don't want to be said. Do I think that sucks? Yeah, it does. It sucks for you to have to sit there and look at all the different things that, is said about you. But you are a Major League manager. You cannot be concerned with how the media is reporting how you left Tennessee. And then, did anybody else feel like he was saying that he chose the Giants job because he was forced into it, because he was, because the news came out? It sounds like he never wanted to be there. It sounds like he was forced into it. No one is making you be the manager of a team. I will be the manager of a team if you don't want to be. But I can't imagine a worse situation for a team heading into spring training with the first-year manager, guy who's never worked in Major League Baseball. I don't even think he played Major League Baseball. And I just don't understand it. Like, we're all down here complaining about Craig Stammen. At least Craig Stammen is actually wanting to be here. This was one of the craziest press conferences or media scrums I've heard in a long, long, long time. But here's from Dieter Kurtenbach's article, and this is just what people are feeling up in the Bay Area. Quote, or it says, and that begs the very loud, very uncomfortable question that nobody in the Giants front office wants to hear right now. Does Tony Vitello actually want to be here? Look, nobody can blame Vitello for missing the college game and reportedly talking about it in every media session this spring. That's his entire frame of reference. That's true. And it's not like he left that behind to take over a World Series contender in San Francisco. But forgive me if Monday's sermon didn't come across like a man ready to tackle the NL West. Sounded like someone with some significant second thoughts he's been trying to bury but had to get off his chest. And while I appreciate Vitello's forthrightness, when you let it all out in front of cameras and microphones, you aren't doing yourself any favor with the fan base that is, on the whole, skeptical of the outsider. You know that everyone is going to see, right? You're forced to write columns wondering if this bold experiment has failed before the first pitch of the Cactus League season is ever thrown. So there you go. I would much rather talk about whether or not Craig Stammen is going to be able to manage the Padres rather than whether or not he wants to be here. I think the Giants completely outthought themselves. I thought this was a strange move from the beginning. I didn't understand it. I thought that Buster Posey, and I'm a guy who lived in the San Francisco area when Buster Posey played for the Giants, and he's a fan favorite. I was curious to see what he would do as a GM of a team, but I feel like he outthought himself. I feel like he thought he was going to get someone that was so different that it was going to work. But I'm not feeling that whatsoever. But hey, let's again, we're complaining about Mike Stammen. Let's think about the Giants and think about that their manager doesn't actually want to be there at all. That's wild to me. It is wild to me. I don't know if anybody else felt that way as well, but it was Twilight Zone watching it. Very, very Twilight Zone. Gonzo says we just have to play it to our maximum. That is true, Gonzo. That is true. All right. Sam Levitt, if you don't know, he's out in Peoria, as you do know, actually. But he was out and about talking to players this morning, and I wanted to get a little bit of... I wanted everyone to meet Griffin Canning, because Griffin Canning is new to the team. And so I think everybody kind of wants to see what he's all about and hear what he has to say. He's coming off of an injury, but there's a very interesting thing that he said about why he chose the Padres. So here is Griffin.
What appealed to you about the Padres? What brought you here?
Yeah, I think obviously the track record that they've had with some of the guys that have come through here. Obviously just getting to know Ruben, some of the other guys on the staff. Just felt like this was the best opportunity for me to come and get better and help a team any way I can.
The season that you were having last year before the unfortunate incident, what do you attribute that to, and what's that next step you can take with Ruben?
Yeah, I think part of it is just kind of being around some new voices, some new people that were super helpful. But honestly, I like pitching in New York. It was a lot of fun. I like kind of the expectations of being on a winning team, and I think we have that here too. But yeah, I think it was kind of just understanding myself a little bit better and who I am as a pitcher. So just continue to build that relationship with Ruben and learn from some of these other pitchers on the staff, and just keep improving.
How did that process play out over the last few weeks, settling on this team? I know you threw for some scouts. Like, how did it all kind of go about the last week or so?
I think I threw. Maybe it was last Thursday. I think one of the Padres had a guy come out there, and I think I ended up had a Zoom call with them the next day, and then ended up signing Friday night, and then drove out here Saturday and got the process going.
Where are you health-wise, and what are your expectations in terms of like when you might be able to pitch?
I feel great right now. I've been off the mound a handful of times, 4 or 5 times. I'm throwing a bullpen here tomorrow. I feel honestly 100% when I'm on the mound and throwing and everything. Still have some boxes to check in terms of running and some agility things, but I think it's kind of a day by day, week by week thing. Just kind of see how I'm progressing and how I'm feeling and go from there.
All right, that was Griffin Canning with the media earlier today, and I like a guy who chooses the Padres because they think it's going to help their career. It sort of. I know they're not completely the same, but they almost kind of. I don't know what I was trying to say, to be honest. I really don't. But I think that Griffin Canning coming to the team, it's one of those guys who could be considered for part of the 6-man rotation. But I have a feeling that he's going to end up maybe just working on some stuff this year and also making a spot start here and there. I am trying to find this Chris Bassett thing. That's what I wanted to go to earlier, but I cannot find the tweet anymore, and I'm hoping it's not deleted. I don't understand. I don't understand why it's not coming up anymore. All right, let me try one more thing, and then we're going to have to go the other way because I'm running out of time, and this is not good radio when I'm trying to find something that is suddenly deleted. Yeah. Here it is. I found it, everyone. I found it. Chris Bassett, MLBPA Executive Subcommittee member on the salary cap debate. Quote, the salary cap doesn't fix anything. If you look at every major sport with a salary cap, we have the best parity. The salary cap is not the issue. Having suppressed salaries across the league so owners make more money is not the answer. Let's break that down. I don't think that baseball has the best parity. We're likely looking at the Dodgers possibly winning 3 in a row. So that's not parity. I do agree that having suppressed salaries across the league so owners make more money is not the answer. 100% agree with that. He goes on, if I would tell you in 25 years the Dodgers would be going to 10 World Series and winning 7 of them, is that an issue? Because that's what the Patriots, the Chiefs have been to 6 or 7. The Eagles have been to 4 or 5. I don't know if they've been at 4 or 5 here in the last couple of years. The parity in our sport is better than any other sport. I will say that is not true. We will make changes to try to help that so-called bottom teams out, but a salary cap and suppressing salaries and taking from players to try to help the so-called bottom teams spend more. That's not the answer, because if you're trying to make a competitive league across the board, we have proof that every single league has less parity than ours. So how can you sit there and say a salary cap is going to fix this when every single salary cap sport has less parity than ours? It makes no sense. Again, the root of the answer is not the salary cap, and the root of why owners want a salary cap is not for competitive balance. I see what he's saying. The root of the answer is not the salary cap, and the root why owners want a salary cap is not for competitive balance. I agree with that. What I don't agree with is the throwing around of baseball has the most parity in any sport. I think he's missing the mark here a little bit. And this is a guy who's on the MLBPA executive subcommittee. And so he's going to be there in those meetings for the negotiations on the next CBA. The problem is this. There's only one team that can afford the best players. I don't understand why people don't get this. It makes me angry. Like every time I tell someone there's only one team that can afford all the players, they look at me like I'm a conspiracy theorist. It is not. I'm not a conspiracy theorist in this regard. When Kyle Tucker was out in the free agent market, we all knew the Dodgers were at the top of the list. When Edwin Diaz was out in the free agent market, we heard Dodgers were on top of the list. If baseball does have the best parity out of any sport, then other players would be signing elsewhere. The Dodgers would just not keep stacking. And I think what he's saying, I think he's trying to protect the future players, which I do agree with. I think that players in the future need some protection, and they can't get screwed out of money because owners don't want to pay them. But you have to figure out a system that helps the other teams have a chance when there's a free agent. So this is quite not disturbing, but this is, telling me where these CBA talks are going to go. I really think that baseball is in danger of hurting itself if they continue to do this whole, hey, everybody has a chance, because that's not how fans feel. And fans are a big part of your business. So you got to figure it out. And you can't just say, hey, our sport is the best. Because right now there's some problems.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
Well, my Daily Gripe, I kind of just used it, but I didn't plan on using it. So my other Daily Gripe is that I don't know if people ever have this happen to them, but I know that Tony and Chris have told me that this doesn't happen to them. But this morning, I woke up, and you know how you just think, like when you wake up, like, oh, what do I have to do today? And I was thinking, oh, it's Saturday. The Daily Gripe is thinking it's a weekend or dreaming about a weekend, and then waking up realizing that you still are on Wednesday. So that's my Daily Gripe. That is Daily Gripe. I do this more often than people would want to know, but I don't know if anybody does this. The guys tell me I'm crazy, but they also tell me I'm crazy about a lot of things. So I don't know how much I can take. an account from them. It's not English. Anyway, that's it. Done a lot of talking. Thank you for joining me. I will be back tomorrow with the guys, 2 p.m. We're going to talk some Nick Castellanos. We're also going to talk about MLS, Major League Soccer. Talk to you tomorrow. Hey.